imagine you're like in the buying department of a B2B company there. When you're leaving your desk and you're going home, you take your phone and you're like, I'm going to buy a pair of sneakers. I'm going to whatever, and you can see the discrepancies between the experience that you'll have on your phone and the experience that you have at work, because, well, I need to have my quote, then I need to make sure that quote is, there is no discount prices that has been applied there because I have like more volume. Okay, then I need to get back to it. Why those guys, that guy will not be able to have the same experience on the D2C things that are fast, with the right brand experience. That guy also wants to have loyalty with the people that he's buying from. He wants to have the right experience. He wants to have a smooth one. He wants to pay with the right payment methods that are available to him, right? He wants to be able to have the full experience there. So, and that guy is the same. So why are we not treating them the same way? It's for me a big question. And I do feel like now we're bringing some good experience from the D2C world to the B2B world without, forgetting who those buyers are.
Welcome, Benjamin. Thanks for being here today, I would say. Let's establish the basics first. Can you maybe just introduce yourself and your role currently?
Well, thanks for having me. My name is Ben. I'm leading the Northern Europe partnership team as well as the DACH team with Shopify. I've been working for Shopify for the last 2 years or so, and quite a nice ride so far, I would say, yeah.
Awesome. So what does that specifically entail, or maybe what have your jobs been, and what is it now turning into?
Yeah, well, Shopify is a moving beast, right? Things are moving quite fast, and so I joined 2 years ago to lead the Benelux team, then took on Nordics and UKI, and now I've added also the DACH part in my scope. So my team is mainly focusing into managing partners that are commercial partners, I would say. So agencies, system integrators, could also be investors, so private equity, for instance, and we're also helping tech partners with go-to-market strategies, but definitely we're covering mainly the commercial ones. So we're working with amazing partners across the region, and my team is managing them.
Cool. And so maybe just because I didn't really know it, this private equity in terms of the buy and builds that might be happening in the agency world, etc.
Yeah, in the agency world as well.
In Shopify, right?
Or, not investors
exactly.
at Shopify, but investors that are like, we do have a lot the case where a private equity want to invest in a company and they want to make sure that their technology is the right one to perform, right? So that's often the case where we are building partnership with them to make sure that we have the right impact with them.
Cool. Okay, interesting. Can you maybe tell us something more about your background story? Who were you before Shopify? What has your journey been?
Yeah, well, right before joining Shopify, I was working on the partner ecosystem of Shopify on the payment side at Molly Payment. I've been there when it was a small startup and grew it to a scale up. So it was a fun journey. Before that, I was in a marketing tech environment. And prior to that, I was high-level athlete, did the Olympics twice in rowing. So another world. A lot of bridges between the two, but definitely another world. So yeah.
Can you say something about those bridges? How do you see that?
Yeah, well, there is a lot, right? There are a lot of bridges. Definitely the capacity to manage a team and to set an objective has been something really helpful for me in my life. But also the capacity to plan, right? How do you strategize to go toward the goal? Doesn't look super obvious when you're doing high-level sports, but this is the core of what you do, actually. You're planning to, the 4 years plan to go to the Olympics. It's not something that you take lightly. And you have to be surrounded and you have to have an ecosystem around you that helps you. So for me, managing an ecosystem of partners today feels quite natural. With the team that I'm engaging in the process, definitely things that are super natural to me. So yeah.
Well, and it now feels natural, but I guess that maybe in the beginning during your sports career, it wasn't that obvious either. I mean, you're focused on your sports, I guess. Then building a team around you when you're quite young. I don't think that's very easy, right?
No, it's not. And you're learning along the way, right? And definitely you're trying, testing, and iterating on that. But the thing is that when you're doing high-level sports, specifically in rowing, as I did, you're not professional, so you have to work on the side. So you really have to manage things, and your priorities fairly straight because you don't really have money to do it, right? Mm-hmm. So you have to be smart there. So definitely something that shaped my approach of being autonomous, being self-driven, focusing on impact, focusing on things that matter, focusing on the process, not focusing on the finish line. If you focus on getting the medal, you're not focusing on the first stroke of your race. And that's the one that matters to get to the finish line. So, focusing on the process rather than the results has been something that helped me reaching a good result.
Wow. Well, it's not a lot that you're in front of a Olympic athlete, I guess. A couple of questions come up, like how many hours a week did you train? How did your week more or less look then?
Yeah, those days were quite intense. I was training 25 hours a week while working 40 hours a week, while traveling 200 days a year. So was a pretty intense life. But I was super fortunate to be able to live that life. Indeed, I created the luck. I created my chance there. But it was such an amazing experience to have boats gliding in water across the world with some friends. You're working hard to get that, but it was a nice moment. Yeah.
You're saying like focusing on the process, but I also imagine that being at the start lines or just feeling the buzz and the energy around the Olympics, I guess, as well, or other things that you have been competing in. I mean, probably it's quite an invigorating feeling. Is there anything like that you have felt over the last years as well, or?
Yeah, like there are always moments where you feel like you're ready, right? When you're at the starting line, indeed you're stressed. You're like thinking about what can happen on that race, right? What can I control? What can't I control? And there is a lot of moments in your life, also in personal life, where you're at that point where you're like, I'm ready for it, right? And or you are into that big important conversation with a partner, for instance, and you're like, okay, we need to convince them, we need to help them, we need to find a way there. So there is that moment of excitement, that consciousness of being prepared and ready. So you can find those nuggets of moments there in the life after sports.
Cool. Then maybe also, I mean, we're here discussing you obviously as well, but also Shopify. So maybe can you tell us a bit more, indeed, how you got into the ecosystem and how your initial steps with Shopify have been?
Yeah, well, I first came across Shopify when I was working with Modi Payment, right? I was in charge of launching the French market over there, and coincidentally, that was the moment Shopify was launching also in the French market with a large team there. So we were okay. Let's partner, right? Let's do it together. So we started to have conversation with Shopify at that time, and we started to do a tour de France with to meet all the ecosystem, PrestaShop ecosystem, Magento ecosystem, other platforms ecosystem, to have a chat and introduce Modi, introduce Shopify also at that time. So we were working together quite a lot, and I've been so amazed by the quality of the team that they have. Like the conversation we had were amazing, and you could also feel the great product that Shopify was having at the time. Like, okay, there is companies where you feel like it's commercial led, right? The commercial is pushing to get more results, more product, and things like Shopify is the other way around. Product is driving so much. Product innovation is pushing so much.
Foundations are there from a product perspective.
Exactly. So when I saw that, plus the team, then indeed when an opportunity arose, Shopify reached out to me and said, well, would you be interested in a role there? I was like, Hell yeah. Yeah, because definitely it's super exciting company. And I have to say that I haven't been disappointed. Things are moving faster than ever. It's a rocket ship, so it's hard to just stay up to date on everything that we're doing, which creates that great challenge that I was striving for. So yeah.
Cool. Maybe about the ecosystem. So again, you were indeed focused on France and then Benelux. Can you maybe say something? Because a lot of merchants listen to this podcast. I mean, they don't really understand the dynamics of the different platforms in the different countries. So PrestaShop is indeed, I think, a very big one in France specifically. Is that the case? Can you say some numbers, more or less, how you see it in your mind? About,
they have some market share indeed on the smaller to mid-market segment. The reality is that Shopify is gaining traction there. So we do see a lot of the ecosystem switching toward Shopify, which is an interesting motion. I think the philosophy of PrestaShop is a great one, right? The open source aspect of it, but the capacity to bring innovation to that ecosystem is with Shopify is a bit higher. So definitely the pace that you might expect is a bit higher with Shopify. But definitely a great ecosystem. We have a good relationship with them, and Shopify have been overtaking there in terms of market share.
In terms of WooCommerce, how big is that in France? Because I don't know the French market that well, so it's interesting just to have somebody in front of
so
you.
WooCommerce is definitely a super important platform for the starters, right? When you want to start, when you discover you're like often have that shop where you want to have your brand name out there, and then you think, okay, maybe I should have an e-commerce layer to it. Then you build on top of that, and slowly you realize that it's quite limiting. So often this is the moment where you start to look for other solution, and this is often where Shopify comes. But yeah, WooCommerce is definitely a super important platform for the starters.
Cool. Well, I see that there is an amazing ecosystem building in France. You have Coralie, Delpha, and Younes are people obviously that we follow on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
Maybe it was there before already, and I don't know them personally, by the way, but it's just super cool to see, and they're quite vocal. And I didn't really see that market in that way. So for me, it's quite refreshing that is happening there, and the big happenings are happening in Paris. There are obviously a lot of cool partners there. So it's also, I think, an area that I want to explore a bit more. I spent some time in Biarritz myself a couple of years. So it's just quite cool to see it there as well. And it's a market where I didn't really see that coming. Maybe I'm too focused on Netherlands and Belgium, but it's quite cool to see. But I guess you feel the same, right?
Yeah, we do feel the same. And I have to say we feel the same across the board, right? Mm-hmm. And my focus is more in EMEA, a bit less in France now, but we are seeing amazing traction, amazing things done by our partners across the board. Like the UK market is maybe the one that is the more mature in EMEA. But for instance, DACH is also in my scope. So it was in Germany lately, and you can see amazing things happening over there. Like the size of the merchants are also bigger, so it's different challenges, and it's quite fascinating to see the cultural differences between those countries, as well as the requirement from a technological standpoint. So being able to adapt, to localize the approach is an amazing challenge, and the partners we have on the ground over there are doing an amazing job to do so. So our job is to make sure that we're supporting the best possible way to make it happen.
Well, that's already because I've been working together with an American company because I had an e-commerce company myself before. We were bought by American people, great friends then afterwards, obviously. But I mean, platforms that are coming from America to Europe. I mean, it was always very interesting discussion in terms of how can it be so different, right? I mean, we're in country A of Europe. Shouldn't it be also the same in country B, right?
Yeah.
So I think it's also quite challenging for you guys, I mean, to wrap your heads around that and switch between those markets constantly.
Yeah.
It's probably been a big journey for Shopify as well, I think, to change those positionings and how you should focus on specific markets, etc.
Yeah, definitely. And I think the fact that EMEA weights now so much in the Shopify results, creates also priorities when it comes to understanding the local nuances. So for us, that's our job, right? Making sure that we're hearing what are the nuances. You're in Belgium, you have to use bank contact, right? You're going to the Netherlands, is ideal on the payment side, right? But the logistic is also another part, and the usage, for instance, in Dubai, for instance, the postcode is not the same. So there is a lot of small things like that you have to understand. And Shopify is servicing 175 countries now. So indeed, you need to have like a specific focus on each one of them and weight the opportunities. So it's definitely a journey, right? It's not an easy one because indeed, sometimes you're like, okay, I would love to have that logistician integration there. And you say, well, but how do you compare that to India? Like, well, yeah, I understand. Maybe the opportunity is a bit less there. So it's always a matter of balancing things and creating the right business cases to prioritize things internally. But we have an army of developers within Shopify. We have thousands of developers within Shopify. And last 12 months alone, we invested 2 billion in research and development. So when you have that plus an army of developers, your delivery pace is just crazy. And I think you might have witnessed that, but that's I think what is putting us aside, especially when it comes to localization, but not just.
Well, it's even maybe nearly weird and awkward to like see it happening, but it's the pace of momentum and like compounding effect somehow.
Yeah,
is weird to see happening, and I think that is really happening. Obviously, I'm also biased, right?
Yeah,
but I didn't see that yet in my short life and career that something like this really takes off and feels like it really accelerates.
Yeah, it does. And to be frank, even from the inside, it's really, really intense, right? Because that's moving super fast. Like, we have those editions moments, right? And you're like, okay, there is 100 features that we're going to release, when most of our competitors, they're releasing 3-4 a year, right? So definitely a pace that is just crazy. And on those 100, it's just a selection. The 100 is just a selection, because I think it was last year, one of the release we did, we had 180 to select from. So we just selected 100 out of the 180 we had, which is, mind-blowing. So, yeah.
Well, and it's, to be really honest, it's becoming a challenge for us as well, right? As partners, I mean, you're daily trying to implement stuff, and then all those changes happen, and from one side it's extremely invigorating and like you want to be on top of things, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh shit, I'm like losing control more or less. So this is also, I think, why we do these kinds of things, and we try to educate also our merchants, because having a page with 100 features makes a lot of sense. It's awesome, but it's also a lot for them. They're also managing their business. They're also looking to us to like make sure that we filter out the things that are relevant for them.
For sure.
I think that's also how we switched a bit as an agency, to try and really make sure that we do have those improvement tracks and retainer kind of ways of working together, because it's just constantly changing, and you cannot implement that when you're just not talking to your customers and have a good relationship with them. But it's a big change.
Is it not an amazing challenge? Right? It's you have the opportunity to be like surfing that wave, right, of innovation, of constant change. Things are evolving, but not to the detriment of what has been built before, right? It's just building on top. So the curve is exponential there, which is amazing. Or you have the opportunity to work maybe with other platforms that are growing maybe steadily there. Maybe it's more predictable. Maybe it's easier to see to work with sometimes. We can argue on that, but you're at the heart of the innovation. You are the forefront of what is coming to the market. That alone is exciting. Indeed, it brings some challenges around staying up to date. Right. And for us, as within my team, it's a big challenge to make sure that everyone is up to date on everything, right? And especially between the moment you start a project and the moment you end a project, sometimes things have evolved in between, right? Mm-hmm. But it's a positive thing, right? It means that you're bringing innovation at scale to all our merchants, to millions of merchants.
Well, 100%. And I completely agree. It's just super interesting for me also as a business owner to see how big of a challenge that might be. Not that I don't like it, I love it, but indeed it's interesting also for your team, for example. I mean, how do you educate them? They have also constant communication with the customers, but they might be like, they might have a bit of old information. And it's like, so it's just super.
It's a big challenge, but it's a great one. It's a great challenge. But it's definitely it is nonetheless it is a challenge. Yeah,
it's cool. So maybe, I mean, we dove into Shopify and their roadmaps and their speed of execution. But where does this all come from? I mean, you from the inside, how did you feel that the buildup was going on the last couple of years? How did they manage to instill that culture in such a huge company? Well, maybe can you just say something about that?
Shopify is 20 years old, right? Oh. And the founder, Tobias Lüchte, is also the head of research and development. So when he's having an idea in his head, he's making it happen. And these guys around innovation is amazing around that. So, and we're allocating an amazing part of our revenue toward R&D, like the biggest of all competition. More than 36% of our revenue is going to research and development, which is massive. Means like more than 2 billion last 12 months. Just so that amount of money, resources that we are allocating to innovation is definitely what's putting us aside of the competition. But indeed, over the last few years, we've realized also that our mission to make commerce better for everyone was mainly focused in the past towards small and medium businesses, right? And we realized that we had a lot of small merchants that grew and became massive, like the Gymsharks, for instance.
Exactly.
Those guys have been having amazing results, and they're still on Shopify, and they're still really happy about it. And they even tried another platform, for instance, Gymshark, and came back to us, right? So we realized, like, okay, our product is not only catering for that segment. So over the last few years, indeed, we're now addressing more the large companies, the large enterprise, because our product is fitting that. So that's one of the transformation we've been seeing, not only from an e-commerce standpoint, but from a unified commerce standpoint. We've been pushing POS, we've been pushing B2B quite a lot, we've been pushing channels, social channels there. So it's not around being just, one channel, which is your e-shop. It's about making sure that you're connecting the dots on all your channels. And that's something that we have been pushing a lot lately, and we are going to keep pushing on. So the unified commerce experience, gathering all the data points, having the right brand experience across all the touch points. Those are things that we are currently focusing on. Yeah.
How in your mind are you successful in trying to make sure that merchants and the people out there understand this, right? Because indeed, mainly in Belgium, I think this also again changes from country to country, but how do people Shopify see potentially in some countries, in some parts of the merchants' percentages, they still see it as the platform to build upon as a small merchant. So for them, it's weird that B2B is even a thing and could be a thing.
Yeah.
So I just wonder from your perspective as well. I'm always seeing that the market indeed just follows, right? If we and Shopify do the right things, but it must be also very hard and difficult to really try to aim for that.
Yeah, and I think there is always a perception, right? And as our industry outside of Shopify is not moving super fast, when we are moving super fast, somehow we're a bit of a weird object in the tech planet, right? But we are the fastest moving object in that tech planet. So indeed, when I'm talking about, for instance, B2B with some brands, they sometimes have the feedback from the CTO. They're telling me, I checked a year ago, your B2B value prop wasn't great. Well, like, yeah, maybe a year or 2 years ago wasn't great. Did you check it again now?
Things change, man.
Like, yeah, well, in B2B, things are not moving that fast. I'm like, well, check it again, right? And when they're looking at it, we're like, wow. And we have a pretty big roadmap in B2B. So it's like, no, it's like, it doesn't believe it. So indeed, that for us is about changing perception. Changing perception is great when you have a good product. When you have a product that you're trying to oversell is a complex one. When you have a great product and you're just trying to change perception is a good challenge again. So for us, that's not an easy one because it means a bit more marketing. It means a bit more, being out there and talking about it, showing proof points. And we do have so many now, like brands that are doing plus 1 billion on the platform. We do have loads of them now. So it's about putting them out there, sharing the stories, sharing the fact that, I don't know, a Daniel Wellington brand, watch brand, when they moved to Shopify, they cut their cost by 500K a year, right? It's mentioning that the total cost of ownership is reduced. And it's like Eden Park in France, when they moved to Shopify, they did the migration in less than 3 months. And so a 40% conversion increase. Those things, are just mind-blowing. So we need to put them more out there to help the perceptions evolve.
I'm going to try and explain me quite well, but it's a hard topic for me, and we're here in Amsterdam, right?
Yeah.
We're from Ghent. We've been talking to a lot of partners and customers and potential customers in the last couple of days, so I might be also a bit tired in my mind. But what I find super interesting when talking to people is that there are still very niche products, especially in Europe, but I think it's in the US, it's the same, that are built around a certain sector. For example, POS in restaurants and etc. There is then ERP systems or commerce systems around specific, what's it called in English, like big sofas, etc. And that
furniture.
So in furniture. And so what you still see is kind of with people that take decisions in companies is you never get fired when you work with Deloitte or whatever, right? So you never get fired if you work with the furniture ERP system or commerce system because it's what. But what I'm really wondering, and it's not a thing that we can really, I think, talk through completely in such a discussion, but what I see as a huge potential and a shift in the market is that when you have that niche interest and experience, that you can probably these days put it on platforms such as Shopify that just blow a lot of other platforms out of the water in terms of speed of how things are indeed evolving. And that's not really something that people already think about a lot in specific niches. And I just think that's such an interesting thing to think about, because that will really change the world of commerce, like I think a lot, because it used to be the case that, you're in furniture, so you will probably just move to that specific platform. And then now this is really changing. But I also do feel that we have a big opportunity as an agency to try and own those niches, because if we don't do that, then those people will probably, it will take longer for them to migrate to a system like Shopify, because for those CEOs and those CTOs to understand that you can really build it on Shopify as well is just a bit weird if you compare it to a niche system that is specifically built to this. So we need to really make sure that we have that experience in those specific niches to make sure that we can really try to implement it in a specific sector in a good way.
Yeah, like I fully agree on that one. I think it's also a tough one, right? When we are talking to, for instance, B2B specific ones, they're like, yeah, but Shopify, you're good at selling T-shirts from mums and pop shops. I'm like, yeah, well, not just, right? And you're like, yeah, but why should I need to have like such a nice front end for a B2B project? I'm like, well, because that will help you convert more. That will help you to get, your operational cost down. That will help you in so many layers. And so what matters is the customer experience at the end of the day, right? Whoever they are.
It's also it's also people, right?
Yeah, exactly. And I remember I had a conversation with a partner lately, and he was telling me, I want to focus in that specific niche. Like it was agriculture, B2B, furniture pieces, something like that. I was like, okay. I was a bit surprised, right? And said, because we have one merchant on that is doing an amazing job, and we understand how they talk. We understand what is their main challenges there. So we have them, and there is 5 main competitors around them. We're talking to them, and the conversion rate on those ones was high, right? So for the agency, for the partner, identifying the ideal client profile, the niche that you've mentioned, and nailing that down is super important. But that's the same for like the people that are listening to us now, right? Sometimes really easy to get attracted by other like shiny objects, right? Whereas being clear on what you define as your ICP, what is your addressable market, and focusing on that, nailing that down, and then expanding to the things that are quite similar is way easier and way more structured and smart than just going here and there and here and there and there. You should still be able to capture opportunities, but the ICP definition is definitely the fuel of success, I feel now.
Okay, cool. Very nice. Let's talk a bit about the customizer in and of itself. I mean, in the new winter editions, a lot of new features have been announced. It's quite a clear roadmap there, I think, in some articles that you find. Maybe we can just discuss a bit the steps that have been taken. So, I mean, from online store 1.0 to 2.0, obviously, and now there is a lot happening around the theme blocks, etc. I think that's also a question, and it's a bit awkward as agencies as well, but I just love to talk about these things because, before everybody, and in the industry, it's still like this. I think that for every single thing that should change, they need the agency or the coder, right? I mean, this is obviously what we don't want to get. We want to make sure that the technology leverages, those merchants, and we don't want to be the intermediary that they have to pass through to make sure that the changes are made. So that's, for me personally, a really exciting one to see. It's just becoming so flexible in the next couple of months. So it's just very interesting to see, I think.
Well, time to market has become so important lately, right? After, we know the macroeconomics. It's a bit complex. Budget are more constraints. You need to be more agile. You need to be making decisions faster. You need to be testing faster, right? So I do feel like everything that Shopify is doing is to make sure that we are allocating the time where you should. Right. So do you need to spend 10 hours into updating a button into your web shop? Maybe not, right? Maybe the clients can do that by themselves. While you're, as an agency, you can focus really on added value features, added value, like implementing innovation. We talked about the fact that you have almost a feature a day that is coming out of Shopify currently, right? So that's that's adding value to the clients. So instead of focusing on things that are maintaining the light on, you can focus on things that are going to improve the conversion impact of your clients, that will move the revenue needle, which ultimately this is how you want to be used. Because I'm not sure it's fun for a developer to just deep dive in the code to change the color of a button, right? Might be a bit more fun to say, well, actually, there is a checkout optimization that we can do. If we then try the one-page checkout, we want to change a bit of the colors because we know that, well, we change that into another channel, conversion rate improved. So let's try to have a similar brand experience across and see how that moved the needle, you know? And this is where I think, and indeed there is way more deep projects, for instance, Shopify, that has been seen as the monolithic platform, right? Now you can go headless, right? So if you want to go headless, you can. If you want to go fully composable, you can, right? So you have all the layer of complexity there that will definitely, help brands to maximize their impact and go above and beyond when it comes to customer experiences. And this is where, like a partner like you, you can excel. You are excelling because this is where you're adding value. Help them navigate that, and you're bringing value rather than just maintaining the light on.
100%. Yeah. So you mentioned headless. This is one of the questions, obviously, that we wanted to discuss: hydrogen and oxygen.
Yeah.
Maybe because I think a lot of people are interested. There is a bit of a momentum swing. I feel indeed, like you say, macroeconomics is a bit more weird. I think is a weird situation going on. We don't really know where it's going. A couple of years ago, the Mac Alliance was very, very big. The CTOs and in companies were mostly like, microservices, headless, we should go there. This was in peak COVID. The sky was the limit, basically, right? Now you saw the pendulum swing a bit back, also because Shopify makes sure that in Online Store 2.0 you can do so much stuff yourself and it's super flexible, updatable, etc., etc. But then there is also the investment of Shopify to take over Remix or incorporate it completely into their platform. Maybe, just elaborate on that a bit more. Why? How did this come along? It's just interesting.
Yeah, we know that our historic solutions, right, the full service one was covering super large, right? But we also acknowledge that there is different needs in the market, right? And we have brands that are with such complex setup that they need to be connected to the right backend. They need to be connected differently with the right partners, and they need to have a bit more flexibility there. So we're like, why not helping them too, right? Indeed, I feel, and that's my personal feeling, that over the COVID years, it was a bit of the buzzword, right? Well, headless, fully composable things was a bit of a buzz, right? And I think we extracted from it the reality of what the needs are. There are a lot of brands move to it and say, well, actually, I don't need that because the requirements were not set properly. So I think the buzz pushed the pendulum, as you said, a bit too far. I think now we're finding another balance there where there are amazing brands that are moving to headless for the right reasons, and they should go there for the right reasons and not go there because it's the buzz, right? And sometimes CTOs might be like, I heard about it.
For sure.
Looks good, it's a fancy stuff to put to the board. But is it really going to move the needle? That's a question you should ask. If it is, yes, go, And that's why also we have partners that are recommending it because they feel like it can move the needle. But maybe it's case dependent. So Shopify invested in offering a larger product suite to make sure that we can cater for everyone's need. You just want the best converting checkout on the planet. Well, take it, right? That's it can use that component and plug it wherever you want, right? Or you want a full on everything out of the shelves, you can have that. Or you want headless, perfect, because you have more connection. You want to increase the speed of your website because you have 40, 50 apps connected to your store, and you feel like it might slow it down. Okay, well, do it, right? So indeed, I'm generally speaking, because it's way more nuanced than that, but I think having that deepness in our offering definitely help to cater for the needs, individual needs. And we do feel to the point we are making around perception that our partners are the key to really educate and enable clients to make the right decisions.
There is a lot happening in terms of academies as well, right? For us, because there is happening so much. One of the things that has now just been launched is the headless consultant and the hydrogen and oxygen. It's also quite exciting to see that those courses are getting bigger and bigger, and that the ecosystem is being challenged. And made sure that there is resources that we can watch and make sure that we can have great services and understand our customers better. So I think that helps a lot as well.
Yeah, to the point we were making earlier, like we need to make sure that everyone is aware of what we do at the pace we are going. It's not an easy challenge. And that's why like everything related to certification, academy is something important that we're pushing to make sure that, the knowledge is spread across the proper way.
Cool. Then maybe, so we talked about headless a bit now, maybe it will come back, but B2B, I think this is like a huge topic, right, for Shopify, also for us. Obviously, I think it's just a massive opportunity for Shopify. I don't know, like how you see the numbers, D2C versus B2B, how you create them in your mind, but yeah, maybe we can just say something about this because a lot of merchants might not know, but it's...
I don't recall exactly the numbers, but the scale of the B2B market is like something like 10 times bigger than the D2C one, so it's just a massive market there. And if we look at it, it's also a market that's been underserved technologically, or the pace of innovation wasn't the same, right? And it was highly customizable elements, and that was creating a feeling of being stuck for CTOs working on the B2B, where they were having so many dependencies on the integration, and if that developer was leaving the company, they were like, I'm losing so much history. I don't know how I will maintain that. And that's creating risk in the business, right? And so those elements combined, we're like, okay, there is a massive opportunity. And we had more and more clients that were at first mainly on the D2C part. And they were saying, yeah, we want to open a B2B part. So we started by that, right? We started by understanding what were the needs, what were requirements. And then we slowly understood that indeed the requirements are a bit specific. You need to have catalog pricing, client pricing, sales rep access, things like that were not incorporated in our D2C solutions. So, and then we started to have great success there. Like, okay, if we have great success in that, and we're seeing a need, and we're seeing a market that's underserved, that's a nice opportunity for us. So, and now we're seeing a lot of B2B only brands moving to Shopify, which like a couple of years ago, you were not really guessing. You were like, yeah, maybe a D2C that want to open a small channel on B2B would be a fit for Shopify. Not anymore. Now we have brands that are doing plus 1 billion on B2B only that are moving to Shopify, which is super exciting because the product that we're offering is giving them way more flexibility at a reduced total cost of ownership. And ultimately, in a B2B or wherever you are, this is what you need currently in the macroeconomic.
Well, it's so funny that still, and I think it's still something that lives in a lot of people in their minds. But what you said before as well is that before it was kind of okay when you had a shitty experience when you needed to purchase something B2B.
Yeah, through the RP system,
Yeah,
you recall those days.
So funny that still for some people is accepted. We approached this from a specific side because we had a furniture brand right before. We were on Shopify Plus, then we moved to Magento because the American people that took us over were on Magento. But the funny thing about furniture obviously is that you also have smaller B2B customers. So we were like just in the middle of that B2C, B2B part. And actually what you saw during COVID as well, obviously, is that a lot of the people then that bought desks at home, they also wanted their company to buy those desks for them.
Yeah.
And it's just a funny way of like, they bought it in a good experience for them at home, but now they work more at home. So they understand that like the experience of how you buy the things that you want at home, you want to have a similar experience if you buy those things for the office, which also should be like giving you a good feeling, right? The office. And also then the experiences of how you buy the things for the office So it was really interesting to like also see that mind shift within our company then, because everything changed to companies willing to spend, and we had clients such as Google, etc., that just spent a lot of money on making sure that those desks could be bought, but then centralized from within Google for all of the people that were working at home. So it was an interesting time to also see that how the experiences for B2B then actually migrated a bit more to the B2C way of thinking.
Yeah.
And I think that's still like going on.
Yeah, there is still grounds to cover there. But like, you imagine you're like in the buying department of a B2B company there. When you're leaving your desk and you're going home, you take your phone and you're like, I'm going to buy a pair of sneakers. I'm going to whatever, and you can see the discrepancies between the experience that you'll have on your phone and the experience that you have at work, because well, I need to have my quote, and then I need to make sure that that quote is, there is no discount prices that has been applied there because I have like more volume. Okay, then you need to get back to it. Why those guys, that guy will not be able to have the same experience on the D2C things that are fast, with the right brand experience. That guy also wants to have loyalty with the people that he's buying from. He wants to have the right experience. He wants to have a smooth one. He wants to pay with the right payment methods that are available to him, right? He wants to be able to have the full experience there. So, and that guy is the same. So why are we not treating them the same way? That's for me a big question. And I do feel like now we're bringing some good experience from the D2C world to the B2B world without, forgetting who those buyers are, because they also have quite some specific needs. So an integration to ERPs is also something super important. Hence, capacity on the B2Bs, capacity on the APIs, capacity to connect a lot of different partners to it. That's why I think currently we have good traction there.
Cool. Nice. Then from a POS point of view, so obviously Shopify is changing a bit from more obviously B2C, D2C kind of approach to the market towards commerce, broad commerce. Maybe just like how has this been initiated within Shopify? How long has this been building on already? So just maybe first topic on
the POS is definitely a massive one, right? And so what we've realized quite quickly is that what matters, especially when the customer acquisition costs are going through the roof, when we had COVID and everything was closed, we realized that opposing offline and offline was not really smart. And, spending millions into acquiring clients was also something that was a bit complex. So like, instead of thinking about, attracting clients to your store or to your shop, we were thinking, okay, let's just try to maximize every touch point that you have with your clients, right? And let's try to be where they are, right? Are they on TikTok? Yeah, they're buying on TikTok. Okay, well, be there, right? You're doing your DIY store and you do live shopping. Well, then sell there, right? Be there. Don't try to attract them because customer acquisition costs are too high. Like, to be where they are. Do you want to have to test a new market? You want to launch in Amsterdam? Well, do a pop-up store to start with. So we are thinking customer experience first, especially on the context we have. So it was logical for us to push more the POS, because ultimately what you want is to be able to connect the data that you have online to your data you have offline. So for instance, I have a brand here that I love that is not that far from here, and I'm buying a lot of shirts from them, right? And when I'm buying online, I know my size, but sometimes I like to go visit them because, I know the founders. It's a cool experience, right? And I'm arriving there. They have my email address. They know who I am. Say, hey, you bought this shirt last time. How do you like it? And they know exactly everything about my preferences. They know that I don't like their sneakers, for instance. So like, yeah, well, I'm not trying to push it, right? Like, but you love the pants, so we have that in another color. Do you want to try it? And that's the kind of guest experience that you want to have also there. So the POS is just an extension of that customer experience that we want to provide. And yes, on the last years, the huge amount of money that I've mentioned we're investing, a big portion of that is going to POS.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, what you were mentioning there is like Shopify, and you hear it throughout the ecosystem, but that Shopify is becoming more and more of a CDP as well. So it's and what you say exactly matches this, right? I mean, you go to a store, they know a lot of things about you, and it just makes sense that it's all based in Shopify, right?
Yeah.
You don't want to push it to another system necessarily, that you have to then connect, etc. I mean, it's just nice to have those physical and digital experiences move into each other.
Yeah.
And then the CDP kind of way of thinking that Shopify is indeed also becoming, it's just an important part of that, I guess.
Yeah, it is because ultimately we know what data is today in this world, right? We might talk about the hot topic that everyone wants to talk about is AI, right? AI is based on data, is machine learning, right? So the more data you have, the more informed decision you can take. And ultimately having first-party data is important. So whatever the touch point you have, you want to gather that data to be able to take informed decisions based on that. So definitely, I think it's an important layer of the success of any brand. So we're trying to provide the tools to the brands to make sure that they have the informed decision. So definitely something important. Yeah.
Cool. So let's talk about AI, I guess, right? Yeah. So Shopify is doing a lot of stuff there. Obviously, it can help merchants. Again, this is right into the wheelhouse of Shopify.
Yeah.
So they're launching a lot of different things, right? It's coming. It's out there. Yeah. What is happening? What do you feel excited about? What does AI maybe mean to you? Because so many people are talking about it, but there are not too many things that have been pushed to production or have changed, other than ChatGPT, for example, for a lot of people.
Yeah.
But
well, there is quite a few tools that we've pushed right in our system, and all of that is to help take informed decision and to be able to create content also. And that this idea is to be able to remove low value tasks and to focus on the thing that matters the most, right? And for instance, Sidekick will definitely help you to take the right informed decision because it will, understand the data that you have in your system and will help you there. And we have content creation that is also done through the platform that will help you to create at scale the right content. But the thing is that it's not removing the importance of the human brain there. We do feel like it's definitely an opportunity to have your team focusing on high value tasks rather than low value tasks. And are you willing to create the same product description in like 20 product? Maybe not. You want to review it. You want to make sure that it's impactful. But do you want to carry the heavy lifting of just creating it from the get-go? Maybe not. So by doing this kind of small task that we can automate, that we can support by AI, you can focus your brain into improving things, rather than just doing the heavy lifting. So this is something that we are pushing a lot on at Shopify. That has been super important. Tobias Lübke, the founder of Shopify, is a massive fan of AI. So we are pushed also internally to use it. And we can see the impact. For instance, content creation. I'm quite excited about that. But for instance, if I'm doing a podcast with you, I might put a post internally saying, "Well, I did a podcast with Dear Digital. It was great. We had a good conversation there." But the time to create that, to do the workplace post or whatever post you want to do on Slack, I can just put that on my. We have an integration. I can write down a post around the great podcast I did with the Digital. Mm-hmm. Boom, 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 boom. You have things that you create, and you just have to change a few things there, and you have like an impactful post because people will engage. Oh yeah, where can I find it? Well, actually, there is a link already in it. And that's the kind of things that AI will help us to do, like being more impactful in our work, going a layer deeper, impacting more business decisions. So yeah, I'm quite excited about that. Yeah.
Well, and also the developer base that you guys have, right? I mean, you were one of the first collaborators, like very deep collaborators with Copilot and GitHub. I mean, I saw the GitHub Universe talks that Shopify gave, right?
Yeah.
Right. There is a massive amount of lines of code that have been reviewed or made or created by Copilot. So it's quite insane.
Yeah, it's crazy. And I have to say that the enthusiasm that our founder is having around that is embarking the company into it. And that has been the case for quite some time, right? Because sometimes we feel like it's a new thing, but it's not really a new thing. Machine learning has been there for quite some time. So that's something that is really into our DNA within Shopify, and we're trying to create tools that help people, and AI, we believe, can change a lot of things.
Cool. I want to propose to you like a small mental model that I have in my mind. Obviously, I'm an agency owner, right? But there is something in my mind, and especially with AI, I think this is cool to bring up, and I'm just testing this out with different people to see if the mental model is more or less relevant and will be relevant for me in the future as well. Is like if time progresses, right, complexity more or less is also is going up, right? Because there are so many tools, so many different platforms, so many different types of code that you can write, different kinds of companies and opportunities, etc. I do feel that we as humans don't really scale well enough with the complexity over time than technology scales potentially. So how I see what we can do and be of value to our merchants is that we actually try to make sure that that gap between complexity that some people might be able to handle because they are having their own complexities, right? They're making or trying to make their businesses. They're not necessarily platform choice people or technology people, right? So in one way or another, kind of the complexity gap is increasing. And now my question actually is, because we're talking about AI, is will that still be the case, right? With AI, is that gap now closing again, or is it actually rapidly accelerating even more because there is so much more possibilities and new possibilities that actually, even when the bar is raised because of AI, complexity and opportunity just increases, and thus indeed our necessity to try and help people, guide them within that complexity actually increases.
Yeah.
How do you think about that?
Well, it's a tough one, right? Because indeed, I don't know what will happen tomorrow, right? And the reality is that I strongly believe that our human brain will not be overtaken like that, right? So we will still have to combine high complexity on the technology side and a high level of services around it, because technology without the human aspect of it is just like an empty tool, right? And we were talking about perception. Ultimately, we can talk a lot about the fact that we're in a B2C, B2B. We are a human-to-human business, right? We are talking to each other, right? You're talking to brands. There is human being behind, right? It's not an AI tool that is creating web shops, operating them, sending boxes, and no one is touching that. There is humans behind that, and we need to navigate that. And AI, as intelligent it is, remains an artificial intelligence, right? So I do believe that, I don't know if the gaps will increase or reduce, maybe will stay the same, but I think our importance within that will remain.
Okay, cool. Interesting. Thanks. In terms of consumer-facing AI, so I just want to, again, have a concept that I just want to speak out loud because it's just cool to interact about it.
Yeah.
So we did a small hackathon internally as well, because so now you have a website is built with pages. Now we have the new concept of pages built by sections, and those sections are now used on different pages. And then you have, in those sections, you have blocks, right?
Yeah.
That now come out. What I do think with personalization as well, that actually a page is becoming obviously more personalized and thus dynamic. It depends on who you are, who you're logged in as, to see a specific experience. So what I imagine is now with AI as well, that you have a more conversational way of doing business and not really have static pages in front of you that you click from one page to the other necessarily, but that actually based on indeed the questions and the conversations that you have, that experience is spun up dynamically based on the building blocks. I see it. Maybe my brain is too, not thinking out enough or out of the box enough. But I think that dynamic experience will be gathered by the building blocks that we are now building up pages from. But it will be dynamically grabbed. Like you ask a specific question, more or less like semantic search, right? But it generates the page for you, kind of, or the eternal page. Because if you keep on asking questions, I mean, it can give you images or videos or sections of text or pieces of a blog post or products or whatever. And I think that is something super interesting that we have played around a bit with, and that you can actually do already quite a lot with. We don't want it to be like I'm going to call it, this is my opinion obviously, but the boring purely chat interface, because it's just quite limiting, and a lot of brands want to have their expressions in an experience as such an experience as well. And just with text, it's quite limiting. I mean, you have video, you have those immersive kind of experiences. So I think that there is a big opportunity there to build such a dynamically generated experience. It will probably be in parallel to what we currently know, because that also has its
advantages.
Advantages.
Yeah, fully
but
agree.
This is how I think about it.
Yeah, I definitely think that everything that we do toward a better customized customer journey is something that will work, right? Yeah. So but we are far from it. Like if we look at the state of the marketplace currently, it's often the case that you're entering a web shop, right? And you're based out of Belgium, and it's not localized. You don't have the right logistic, So
we're very far from it.
Yeah. We are still a bit far from it. Yeah. So I think there is still we need to think ahead, right? We need to create the future there. But I do believe there is a lot of things that we can do in between. And also we need to be mindful of not falling into the trap of over complexifying, because there is still, the way that you're scrolling in a web shop, today, or the way that you're browsing into a store today might not be the one that will be tomorrow. So maybe AI will interpret things in a way that's not exactly the one it should, right? Because it's not a fully accurate model there. So we still need to give room for intuition, room for things that are a bit more like large rather than too custom. So finding the right balance will be an interesting challenge of the coming years.
But I 100% agree, and this is why I say these things to have this kind of pushback as well. Because I mean, if you think about the digitalization of the economy, we still have such a long way to go. I mean, this is actually what we discussed, right? B2B experience. I mean, sorry for the words, but just sucks. I mean, maybe in 90% of the cases. So imagine how much work it will be to put that on par with what it should be. I mean, that's already years of work.
Yeah.
I mean, not even thinking about all the stuff that will now be possible and that we can also implement.
Yeah.
So it's like
but
work upon work.
You don't want to disconnect innovation to reality, right? Mm-hmm. And that I think is a super important element, right? And especially for us, we are innovating a lot. So there is a risk sometimes to come to a bubble where you create your own reality, like everyone having customized experience. We are going to go a layer deeper. Well. Mm-hmm. It might not be exactly what listeners are experiencing currently. Maybe it's a bit of more of a challenge, and maybe they just don't know that in Belgium you need bank contact to check out, right? Mm-hmm. Maybe they just don't, and that's fine, right? We're like it's not finger pointing there. So there is a lot of things that we need to do on education to make sure that we are leveling up the playing field so everyone can have access then to innovation. And I think that step is an important one. Yeah, it's cool to dream. It's great to make sure that we are
feet on the ground.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
and especially us, right? We are really implementing those things for merchants, for customers. So we should make sure that we really, do the basics first in a good way as well.
Indeed, but I think as a brand, when you're hearing that, you're like, well, we need to have. It's great to talk about blockchain. It's great to talk about blockchain, right? It's an amazing topic. But maybe most of the listeners will be like, I don't see myself there yet. It's not, maybe it's a step, right? But it's good to know that you're surrounded by partners that have extra gears if you need, mm-hmm. right? Rather than partners that don't have that extra gear, that are just here to say, well, actually, did you think about doing the security patch there? Yes, you need to move from 1.9 to 2. It will take you 12 months. Yeah, same platform, but actually, you need to re-platform anyway. That's the reality of most of the people on the planet, right? So, or on the ecosystem, I would say. So, we need to make sure that people understand that there is capacities to gear up, and they have partners to help them to gear up, mm-hmm. Because there is a possibility of accelerating brands. So, yeah.
Cool, nice. I think we should more or less be wrapping here. So I just have a couple of.
Come on, let's keep.
You want to keep going? We have a couple of throw-out questions still. But yeah, I mean, I just want to ask you a rather obvious question, but what are you personally super excited about in commerce as a whole? I mean, you're working in this economy for a while now.
Yeah.
What do you really feel super excited about?
I think we've touched a bit on this, some of the things I'm really excited about. I think the unified commerce part is definitely a fun one, right? And I do feel like, especially because we've been coming from a world where we were opposing so much offline and online that doesn't make any sense anymore, right? Like 55% of people that are browsing on your web shop, they're checking if there is stock in your store next door, right? And the other way is true too. 54% of people that are browsing on the shop, they're checking online if there is their size to be delivered home because they just don't want to carry the thing, right? So that alone tells you a lot about the synergies that there is between offline and online. But when we're saying that, we're thinking store, we're thinking e-shop. There is so many things in between. Indeed, we talked about the B2B at length, but there is also social integration, social media integration. So many different channels that you can maximize your impact on. I'm super excited about that, and also being able to fetch the right data here to inform models that can help you to accelerate your business. That I think we are definitely in a nice path there. So that I'm super excited about.
Cool, nice. Maybe then in terms of blogs and YouTube channels, I mean, it's always awesome for merchants that don't really spend as much time as you in this ecosystem. What do you follow?
Well, there are quite a lot of podcasts. So there's quite a few that I'm listening to. Newsletter, often partners have amazing newsletter. So somehow, it helps me to keep up to date with everything happening. So, newsletter from partners is something that I'm listening to. that I'm reading, podcasts as well, YouTube channels. Not my thing there. I'm more a podcast guy. So that's why I'm glad to be here.
Awesome. Cool. Okay. Nice.
Any recommendation on your side?
Good question. I try to share it as much as I can. We have our newsletter. I mean, it's not me necessarily making it, but we do have a lot of input on it. And I do share all of the podcasts that I listen to and I think are relevant for our merchants. I do share it there.
Yeah.
But I'm also a podcast guy. These days, a little bit less than before. I think I had 4 or 5 podcasts that I listened to every single week a couple of months ago, but don't really have the time anymore. But I do enjoy it, massively. Yeah, this is also why I'm super excited to be here. It's a bit the same as you, I think. Yeah. It's just such an awesome medium.
It is, yeah.
So I really enjoy listening to a lot of things, for sure. Cool. Is there maybe anything critical that you would like to share to agencies or to, us specifically as an agency, or how you want to challenge us? I do feel that it's very cool also to be able to be critical towards each other.
Well, I think first of all, we love you guys, it's a bit cheesy to say, but we know Shopify is a partner-led organization. We love our partners. It's super important to us, both from a technical standpoint, but also from a commercial standpoint. And what I want our partners to do more is to keep collaborating with us, keep feeding us information around where are the gaps, where can we improve, like creating that partnership relationship rather than reseller relationship. There is nothing more than I hate about the reseller stuff. We are not resellers model. We are partners, so we need to understand what is working, what is not working. And Shopify is having currently a tendency to create so much opportunities. Like the opportunities we have in the market is amazing because of the product that we are improving daily, right? But it's also hard sometimes for partners to navigate that because that in that sea of opportunities, it's hard to get lost. So focus on where you know that you have a unique selling point, push on that. I think that's the main advice I'm pushing to my partners, saying, guys, you're super strong at that. Sometimes you don't realize how strong you are in that specific niche. You mentioned niche, right? Mm-hmm. Go here, nail it down, push, ask us what we can help you to do there, because we might be able to bring more resources to help you there. But if you're intentional where you want to focus, we're going to support you.
Awesome. I think that's a good one to finish off. So thanks a lot for being here and spending time with us. It was really amazing.
Thanks for having me. Yeah.
And hopefully we can do it again soon. So
yes, I hope so too. Yeah, thanks. Cheers.